Click, click.
What's up, fellers?
Tuesday.
What's up? It's Tuesday, but it already feels like Friday.
I know you ain't yawning. I know you're not yawning, Andrew. It's not
No,
like
Tuesday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I should be yawning. I've been staring at this dang screen all day.
Did nothing. Played with JB all day today.
Teaching JB how to turn on a computer. Literally. No. Well, actually, might be.
Did it rekindle some old memories of you teaching me how to work a computer?
I'm gonna be honest. He was a little bit quicker than you. Just a little bit.
But Dave's a fast learner, man. He's good now.
But learning a Mac, if you have an iPhone, is not that bad. It's really not. If you know how to work your iPhone. And he knows how to take a screenshot on his phone, so I knew I was in okay.
Step one, can you take a screenshot, right?
Yeah. No. What is your name? No. So, what is going on, guys? Dave, I ain't talked to you much all day.
Yeah, what you been doing, Dave?
Just, some orders, some emails. Had to get some personal stuff from Flat Out. You know, the old bruiser full contact. Had to get some full contacts today, and a couple of the crew.
Did you go see him?
No, I placed an order. Talked to him over the phone.
Oh.
Yeah, I didn't have time to run down to Lehigh today. So, but I had to get some full contacts for next week, and a few other little things. You know, a couple flipping weights, and obviously the new 5/8 ounce that he's carrying.
Okay.
So some grass, some Kissimmee grass, and 6 foot of water, which
should be perfect for you.
So need to stock up on a couple things. You know, get a little low on my quarters, my 3/8, stuff like that. So
yeah, stuff you use to lose. I get it.
Yeah. That's what happens when you hook big fish, Andrew.
Yeah, he wouldn't know anything about that.
Listen. That's. I actually got some insight on the drop shot rig today. So.
Oh boy, here we go with that again.
Dude, you are good. It's like your like 2021 like resolution, isn't it? To figure out the drop shot life, isn't it?
I didn't just figure it out. I'm reinventing it, my friend.
You sure are.
You're definitely reinventing something.
A weird, strange way.
No. So, Joe, we had an awesome time today. We had a good show this afternoon. Ooh.
I'm just so proud of this. Like, I'm just so proud to be a part of this Bass Assassin team and this awesome worm. This thing is amazing.
Is that the new one?
No, I'm still burning through my older ones. But they still freaking work. Like,
oh no, they're hammers. They're hammers when you hook them horizontal. They're hammers when you hook them horizontal. And the new ones have twice the life, twice the action. Yeah.
What was
he made it right?
You've thrown that, I'm assuming, right, Joe?
Oh, throwing the
that rig as you had it.
Absolutely. Yep.
How weedless is it with that flipping hook in there?
100% weedless on grass, pads, buggy whips, reeds, arrowheads. I have that really small flat out 1/16 on there. Like I was telling you and JB earlier, I really like to wake it almost.
Keeps it right below the surface, allowing that
below, and you'll see a little wake come up every now and then, and you can pop it over stuff. It's extremely weedless because of that keeper.
Yep.
That thing. I mean, let me see if I can get it going one more time. Hold on, guys. But I can't express how weedless this is. Usually I'm throwing an EWG on something like this, but like, where's the hook keeper, right?
Yeah.
Or the bait keeper, I'm sorry. You can't see it, and that's perfect. That's what you want running through all them pads and buggy whips and sticks and whatnot.
We have a few more adjustments to make on the braided one. And then the boys will be ready for it over there at our shop, who we have on tonight, Mike Krause, Okeechobee Fishing Headquarters. He'll be ready for some here as soon as it comes back with a finished product. And but man, look, let's get into this with Mike tonight, man. Guys, we've got one hell of a good friend of mine, Mike Krause, on tonight. Man, he's got the biggest tackle assortment up there on the north end of the lake, Okeechobee Fishing Headquarters. does repairs, trolling motor repairs, does installs, all kinds of fun stuff, live bait.
Yep.
Good information. You guys ever get up to that north end of the lake and you need some info, he can point you in a direction, put you in an area. Obviously, you guys still have to go figure it out. But, he wears a lot of hats up there in Okeechobee. We're going to dab into a little something else here after he talks about his business. And, I'm excited to get him on, man. Let's
bring him on. I don't want to wait any longer. I know this guy's got a lot to say. And Dave, there he is, the legend himself, Mr. Mike. How you doing? How you doing, bud?
What's up, guys? We appreciate you having us on.
Oh, we appreciate you, bud. We appreciate you. So, how you doing tonight? How you doing this evening?
Doing great. I heard some of the things you guys were talking about, and let me just give you just a little rundown on me and technology. I'm as computer literate as a bottle of water.
Hey, listen, Mike, you got on here the first time. Dave struggled.
Okay. Yeah, we were like calling them.
You're ahead of the game, man.
Like a helicopter coming to look for him.
You're ahead of the game. You're all right.
I missed half the first show, about 5 minutes of the second show.
He was muted half the third show. Like, it's all right, Mike. You're doing great, bud. Don't worry.
I'm actually one of these that is on the iPhone. So and I really don't know how to operate the iPhone, but we can win every now. We're hanging in there. How about that?
That's a good thing. That's a good thing.
That's all you can do. So how's the business? Talk to us a little bit about Okeechobee Fishing Headquarters.
Yeah, how long you been around there, Mikey?
I took the store back in 2017. It was September 11th, 2017, when we got the store back ourselves. The store's been here. A fellow by the name of Greg McLean started this particular building, this particular store, some 20 years ago. It was touted back then and still touted as of today, the largest freshwater only tackle store in the state of Florida. We have about 5,300 square feet of showroom. We specialize in freshwater tackle. We specialize in what you need for the lakes, in Florida, Central Florida, South Central Florida, all the way, through Florida, Harris Chain up into North Florida. If we don't have it, we can get it. There's a lot of things, we specialize more in Okeechobee. Nice. Obviously Okeechobee, Istapoga, now Headwaters, surrounding area, so things are going pretty good. I mean, business is pretty good. With this pandemic thing, we've had some issues with trying to get product and things like that, but as far as the tackling of it, it's going pretty good. We also offer a full line of repairs on trolling motors. We're a Minn Kota authorized service center, Power Pole authorized service center.
Yes.
We in the 3 years that we've been, 3.5 years we've been open, we've been a top 100 dealer with Power Pole. They're
awesome.
They're great customer service, best customer service in the industry, in my opinion.
The best.
The Minn Kota stuff, we needed a little bit of something to kind of help us through the summer months. So what we decided to do was go get certified through Minn Kota and Johnson Outdoors to work on the Johnson Outdoor products. We try to stock some of the more needed parts, some of the more requested parts. We keep some of that stuff in stock where we can, especially when we know tournaments are coming up, we'll kind of stock up on, control boards and pressure switches and foot switches and things like that. So, we want these tournament guys to come in. Our business thrives on two things. Our business thrives on the tournaments and the locals who are here 365 days a year, and then our seasonal fishermen, anglers, property fishermen, our winter residents, so to speak, that come in, for that 3 to 4 months out of the year. That's when we thrive a little bit, but we never want to forget who carries us year round, and that's our local anglers, yes, our local tournament fishermen, our statewide tournament fishermen. That's who drives us year round to do what we do.
Yeah, and from a tournament angler, from a local fisherman. God rest his soul, Mr. Carroll, good friend of mine. Had passed a couple years ago, but he was the only guy we could get our trolling motors fixed when we were in a jam over there. And now that you've taken that service over, now we've got you. So that's a big help, man.
Ken was great people, and I learned a lot from Ken. Ken taught me,
yes, sir.
Taught me a bit. We learned a lot from Mike Flavin over at Master Repair. Throughout the years, I've been dealing with Mike and Ken I've been in Okeechobee been in the tackle business in Okeechobee for 16 years, and have dealt with those guys, for 16 years. Ken was a good man. He taught me a lot. So I just hope that one day I can live up to the standards that those guys have set, and we do everything we can to make sure that, we try to keep everybody on the water as fast as we can, as long as we can.
Yeah, you do your best. You damn sure do your best, buddy. No matter what, man, I've called you a couple times. You've been bailing people out, going and picking them up on the lake, going and pulling parts just so they can have a part to get their tournament fish the next day. And I know you go above and beyond, man. And that's, that's credit to you and your business there. And guys, anybody over there in that area has any hiccups of power pole, Minn Kota, go see Mike. Get over to Mike. Mike will get you dialed in, get you fixed, figure out what the problem is, and if he has it, he'll have it done for you then and there. So
we appreciate it. We try. Like I said earlier, this pandemic thing's been kind of trying. As far as parts go. Power pole has been these guys they've been doing as best as they can with control boards, and it's just kind of anything electronic right now. It just blows your mind where Ford Motor Company has the entire Kentucky Motor Speedway leased out just to stockpile cars, and we got fellas like Elon Musk that can put a rocket up in the atmosphere and bring it down and put it on a barge in the Pacific Ocean. But we can't figure out how to make a control board. And
DJ's loving the hell out of it, because I took my control board out and loaned it to him. So we had two poles working, and he ended up getting his control board a couple of weeks later. Well, I got mine back. Well, I put mine in, and every time he's around me, he'll hit his button and my shit still works. And we've reset it. We've done all kinds of stuff, but he loves messing with me. I got out to get the truck, he hit the button, lifted my boat. My boat drifted off the bank. I was like, now what, dude? He's laughing. He's just sitting there laughing.
That's good times right there. The tackle industry, the tackle portion of our business right now is it's suffering pretty bad. I think I'm one, and this is, when I say some of the things that I'm going to say, this is all my personal opinion, and I hope I don't offend anybody, but again, this is my personal opinion. I think some of the things in this pandemic, I think there is something to it in some cases, but I also think that it's been blown way out of proportion as well.
Yes, sir.
I think I think that has hurt. I think that's hurt our entire country in a lot of ways. I know it's hurt our tackle business. The tackle industry is suffering pretty bad because we're kind of at the mercy of a lot of different things. There's a lot of components that go into the tackle industry. So I think that's hurt us a little bit because of I think companies are using this pandemic to drive things right now. I know, there's a lot of I don't like throwing people under the bus, but there's a lot of things that are going on. People are using this to drive pricing to.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are, Mike. And I found out today another 20%er hit the shelves. And I'm not going to mention any names because he's a friend of yours, and a lot of
15s, a lot of 20s, a lot of 10s. It's been 10 and up. Here's just a slight little thing. I came home from Daytona Beach yesterday. I stopped and got gas on South Daytona, $2.95 a gallon. I get down to Fort Pierce, and if any of you've ever been to, not Fort Pierce, but Highway 60 there at Yeehaw Junction, I get there, I get off the interstate. The first little gas station you come to, gas is $3.33 a gallon.
Oh,
I'm like, okay. And the major corporation right next to it didn't want to hear everything that was being said to them, so they turned their gas prices off. So no one could see what the price was until you already had your card in the machine.
Oh man,
yes. I mean, so everybody knows that we're having issues. Everybody knows that the country's having issues. Just be true to your business. Just don't hide. I mean, and that's, to me, that's wrong. I just wouldn't do business with a place like that.
No. We have a 10% because we're having to keep up with the Joneses, and obviously the plastic kind of went up a little bit, but he can't justify. I talked to him in length yesterday about it, and he can't justify more than that, because at that point, he just brought everything up that it was not really making any money to, some of the things didn't even go a full 10. So, but
Right.
at the end of the day, one person starts it, everybody's going to jump on the bandwagon because they don't want to be left behind, and they can make another dollar. And, like you said, Mike, I think it's a 50-50 with, my personal thoughts on it too. I think it's a 50-50 thing. I think they're saying the stuff that they're saying to slow down the economy because it was growing as fast as it was. And, just kind of making an example, I guess, more or less. So,
right.
I mean,
well, here's a, you mentioned a 20%er, and again, I won't throw any names out there, but this is just one 20%er. I think you and I had a discussion about the other day. So 2 years ago, that 20%er went up 10%.
Yes, sir.
Last year, that 20%er went up 10%. This year, that 20%er is going up 20%. So
yes,
in
sir.
3 years, they've gone up 40% to the distributor, not just to us local tackle stores. We
yes,
ate
sir.
the first 2 years. Last year and the year before, we ate that 10% as long as we could eat it. Our business was good. Our business was really good, for the last couple of years, and we thrived very well, and we expanded on, we put the shop up. We did the storage units, 3 years ago. Then we put the shop up a year and a half ago, and that shop has exploded in the service work and the repairs and things like that we do. And that's just, it's kind of twofold. It kind of takes away a little bit from what I do here inside.
It's really unethical. It's really unethical. And I've been in this industry long enough, and Mike, you damn sure have been. But, when you do a price increase, you're supposed to look at about every 3 years, to do it every single year and hit it 40.
And then, 40% in 3 years is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
I agree. So
it could be
evaluate after 3. We all evaluate after 3 because, whether it be tariffs, whether it be just, whatever, it's always going to be evaluated after 3. But when you do it, you're pretty much set. You can't just keep going and going and going. But I guess you can now because they pretty much have everybody, by the ground.
You know what? Yeah.
I mean, it's sad that we've reached the state that we have where we have to outsource as much as we do, for not just manufacturing, but product as well to manufacture with. There's a lot of things that are outsourced right now that, with and I get the pandemic affecting the workforce, but for a couple of years, even prior to the pandemic, for several years, we depended on a lot of people that we really didn't need to depend on when we could have done a lot of that stuff right here in our own backyard.
Yes, sir. That's a fact.
I do a little bit of, I dabble in a little bit of the soft plastics, just, I think Chuck does up at Bridgemaster, and,
yes, sir.
just little stuff, we don't want to be a tackle company. We don't want to be a soft plastics company. We just want to help increase our business, so, and that's some little stuff that we've done, and you reach out to companies that are already in business, David, you and I didn't, but Robin and I did a while back. We got some when I first started kicking this idea around with the stick baits and things like that, and then I got several different prices and decided on one, and so far it's worked out pretty good. We don't do a whole lot, but it helped out, so anything that we can do nowadays, to help increase that business, to get foot traffic in the door is the biggest thing. If they come in, they're going to buy something. It's just
Right.
we just have to get in the door.
Well, and look, I know, Junior, he's out getting your shiners for you, which helps a great deal. I mean, obviously you're still paying them and everything else, but guys right now are struggling just to find somebody, that will bring them some wild shiners, and in good shape. I know one of the boys around the corner from you just received 40 dozen last Friday, and they died within 2 hours. All 40 dozen. He ain't happy.
No, that's a different ball game. That's one thing that I have total control over, and we offer all the variations of live bait with the exception of crickets. I handle redworms, wigglers, night crawlers, wild shiners, domestic shiners, minnows, graded out minnows, large, small. We do a lot of different things, but that wild shiner business it means a lot because it affects a lot of different people. It affects the guide industry. The guides make a living off of that bait, and if the bait's not good, the first thing that gets, if the guide's struggling on the lake, and the lake's not being as good as they used to be, with the guide struggling, the first thing to get blamed is the bait. So when I go down there in the morning, I've got a total of 9 tanks, 10 tanks really. I've got one great big tank that was 2, but when I go down there in the morning, if I open those tanks up and I have 1 dead fish in the tank, okay. If I have 2 dead fish, I want to know what was done different. I want to know whether it was on the boat or whether it was something that I done or whether it was something that he done or is it water temperature? Is it the lake? There's a lot of variables that go into it. So it's a catching shiners and curing them out for tackle stores is an art. Keeping them alive and keeping them well and keeping them where the guys like them, that's science. So
risky, not staying in the bait buckets like Friday for that poor girl.
That's horrible, man.
Put them in a bait bucket's not the end of the deal.
Every time you went to shut it, there goes another one. There goes another one.
What you're doing, so. But I mean, there's a lot of things that go into a business like this, and because it is so diverse in what we do. I'm glad I'm not like some of my competitors. I'm glad I don't have to worry about a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Next door to me, they've got a whole different realm of business. They have the tackle store, but they also have everything else that goes along. And I'm glad that I have more control over my business because I'm hands-on.
More hands-on, yep.
So we don't have employees that work for us. I got one girl that comes in and helps us. And then other than that, it's just me and my wife and my partner during the winter months. When he's down. So it's a great business, and we've built what we feel like is a successful business, and we've done that on our customer service. That was our biggest thing when we came back up here. We wanted to make sure, I don't know if all of you guys know, but I left here and went down to Roland Martin's and was there for 5.5 years. And when I got the opportunity to come back up here, we knew then that we had to be a customer service based business. And one thing with me is when you walk through the door, I want to be spoke to. And this is just me personally. When I walk into an establishment, I want somebody to acknowledge that I'm there. So we acknowledge you when you're here. We acknowledge you when you're walking around on the floor. Is there anything we can help you find? Are you looking for anything in specific? Is there anything we can help you with? And when you walk out the door, whether you purchase anything or whether you don't, hey guys, thank you, appreciate you coming in. So
every time
it's a customer service, and that's myself, my wife. We have people that come around. It's kind of strange to say, but we have people that come here just to go to our restrooms because they're that.
Well, no, and
listen.
Hey, I can't tell you how many times I was sitting at the counter and the customer walk in, go right to the restroom, come back out. Hey, Mike, where the fish at? Where are they biting on? Okay, thanks, and walk right out the door. I've been there, bud. I've seen it. I can back you on that one.
Here's the thing, man. I mean, we try to, when a guy comes in and he asks us a question, hey, what are the fish biting on and where are they biting at?
Yeah.
I've never been. If that guy doesn't come back next year, I'd lose business. If the guy doesn't come back the year after that, I lose business. If he has a good time and we put him on, it doesn't necessarily have to be a giant. If we just tell him a general area to go where he can go catch fish. And we know enough about the canals and things like that, where if weather starts to play into things and other things that are going on around the lake, if those things start to play into things, we can tell them to go a different direction or where they need to go or where we feel like they need to go. I haven't been on this lake, so the last time I was actually on Lake Okeechobee was the second week of October. Period. We had our class.
Oh my goodness!
That's the last time I've been on this lake. But I can tell you everything that goes on this lake.
Yeah.
Because listen, we pay attention. We listen to, when guys go out, we ask questions. And I'm not going to give your fishing spot away. I can tell you to the T where the last 3 big major tournaments have been won in the exact spot.
Me too. With exact lure and bait as well. And that little short sucker would probably kick my butt or attempt to kick my butt if I were to say anything.
And here's the thing. Guys come down here in that particular, the last tournament that he won, that he won, 2 weeks after that, here comes the high school tournament. High school state championship. Okay. And the high school state championship, we had guys from Pensacola coming to go to that spot. Had never had any idea even how to get there, let alone how to get when they did get there, what to use. I don't know what to use. I have no idea what he's doing. It doesn't, but I can tell you the area and I can tell you things like that. So that's kind of what we listen very well, we learn very well, and we tell guys, hey, this is probably what you need to, where you need to start. It's a good start.
Yeah, it was a parking lot in there. He wasn't too happy. It 60 boats and an hour and 7 minutes just to get in there for him.
It wasn't very good. So
he wasn't happy. He only got 6 bites, but hey, he made them count. So at the end of the day.
That's pretty good. That was pretty good batting average.
So Mike, I want to just dab into a little something, man. I saw last week, once again, summertime's here. Here we go. The algae bloom, the top.
Sound the alarm. Yeah.
Lake Okeechobee releases, yada, yada, yada. I'd like for you to take off your Okeechobee Fishing Headquarters hat, put on your ringleader hat that you wear. I've talked to you years now, about the lake and we see you up front as being a spokesman of Okeechobee, Lake Okeechobee, laying down the facts for the false statements that our news and social media keep posting, hurting the economy there on the lake. Just let the viewers know, man, lake's good. There are some issues. Yes, there are some problems. Yes, the grass isn't what it used to be. But at the end of the day, it's still fishing. You guys are still running a business. And, kind of that bad publicity that I saw, Cody and I both shared it last week. Stuff like that just – it chaps my ass, and buddy, I know it burns you.
Yeah,
it does. It really does. And there's David. To be honest with you, dude, there's a lot of stuff that goes into this, and there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that a lot of people don't know about. They comment on things, and you never see me. Ever since I got involved in this, and Raymond Iglesias got me involved in this a long time ago down in Clewiston, and I know just enough to get me in trouble about what goes on, but I try to keep up with as much as I can. Yeah. I don't agree with a lot of things that are going on, but one of the biggest things I don't agree with is the negative publicity that Lake Okeechobee gets. we get blamed. Lake Okeechobee, for people that don't know, Lake Okeechobee it is a unique ecosystem inside of an ecosystem. Florida is an ecosystem. Florida is an ecosystem like no other in the world. Lake Okeechobee feeds 3 other ecosystems, not just Lake Okeechobee, but it feeds 3 other ecosystems. Our water comes directly from Orlando. 95% of the water that comes into Lake Okeechobee comes from the Orlando area. The other 5% of the water is runoff water, comes from agriculture, comes from farming. There's a lot of projects that are going on behind the scenes, and things that we have congressmen, and we have one in particular that gives us a really hard time about Lake Okeechobee. We'll look you in your eyes and tell you, I don't care if Lake Okeechobee goes dry. I don't want a drop of water down the St. Lucie Canal. And here's just a couple of little things about the St. Lucie Canal. 2 years ago, there was not a drop of water that went down the St. Lucie Canal. Not a drop for 11 months. They had 14 different beaches in the Stewart area. 14 different beaches that were closed for fecal matter. Not a drop of water came from Lake Okeechobee. Not one bit. They had their own algae blooms. So the latest one you've heard of has been the algae bloom on the southeast side of the lake, Pahokee Marina. And yes, there was a pretty good bloom at the Pahokee Marina. But one thing they don't tell you is where they're showing these is water that can't move. It's in locked places. There's a seawall or a wall that goes all the way around the Pahokee Marina. They're not telling you that there's 18 boats moored inside of the Pahokee Marina that have no way of dumping their septic. None, except in Lake Okeechobee, which fuels all that. We've had unseasonably hot weather already, prior to right now. I mean, we started getting hot weather back in April, and that's when the algae bloom started. We get algae blooms all over the state, all over the United States. There's algae blooms everywhere. So one of the biggest things people forget is what feeds that algae. There's a lot of things one of the biggest things that feed it is freshwater input and temperature. So when you get the combination of both, it is a recipe for disaster. One of the things, and I shouldn't say disaster, that's kind of the wrong word.
No, but
it's a
well
recipe.
Put. Well put.
When we get these weather events that do fuel these things like this, on top of the lake being in the shape that it's in, and the lake goes in cycles. If you look back in history, through South Florida Water Management, through the Army Corps of Engineers, through Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, and I'm not patting any of them on the back. I'm not putting any of them down, because they all have different jobs. They all have different things that they have to do in different ways. But I will say this: Mother Nature runs this lake in cycles, and if you look back, it's anywhere from a 9 to 12 year cycle. We're on a very down cycle right now. I don't know how many of you guys out there know about I'll just use the drought of 2007. So in 2007, Lake Okeechobee hit its all-time record low of 8.89 feet. 2008, Lake Okeechobee, the lake was dry. For the lack of better terms, there was a lot of projects going on. There were scrape projects, several different scrape sites throughout the lake. There was burn projects all over. I say projects. FWC had some burn projects that they were doing. The Good Old Boy Network had some projects they were doing. And when I tell you there was glow from the pier here at Lock 7 all the way around to the Pahokee Marina, or to the Pahokee Rocks, the lake was aglow, just a bright red glow. And that was the best thing that could have happened to Lake Okeechobee at the time.
100%.
So
100%. And it came back. I'll tell you, it came back in the fishing. Oh my God. Because of the vegetation. It was some of the best fishing I've experienced in all the years I've fished the lake.
2008, the lake spiked up to, we were 2007, 8.89 feet. 2008, we were at 17.8 feet.
Ooh.
We had a 9-foot spike.
Wow.
2009, the lake kind of dropped down a little bit to about 16 feet. 2010 got down between 15 and 16. 2010, 11, 12, 13, 14, and even going into 15 were 4 or 5 of the most phenomenal fishing years we had seen in a long, long time. 100 fish days was
consistent 30, 40-pound stacks.
Yes,
Yeah.
Nothing. If you didn't have 28 pounds, you weren't getting a check in a
No, it was 30 plus all day long, man. 40, mid 40s. A couple of the guys had mid 40s.
And then from there, things kind of changed a little bit. The way the plant managers, the aquatic vegetation managers, the invasive species plants, there's a lot of things that were done. If you guys remember, I don't know, we'll move up north and west just a little bit to Istapoga. Istapoga was decimated.
Yeah, that's my home lake.
Yeah,
there's a
Seaburn.
It was a lot of their intent was to kill off the hydrilla. For some reason, which is you just sit back and scratch your head sometimes, and I do the same thing. For some reason, to invasive plant managers, hydrilla is the worst plant that you can get out there. Mm-hmm. To outdoorsmen, to fishermen, to people that know, the people that have common sense about the water, see what goes on with the hydrilla. You go to Lake Toho right now, Lake Toho is absolutely gorgeous in area.
Yeah, it is.
I was on Harris this past weekend. I've been on Harris the last 3 weekends. The most of you remember a couple of years ago the amount of fish that were caught in the Major League Fishing tournaments, in the FLW tournaments, in the Bassmaster Elite tournaments, because there was grass, there was hydrilla. We don't have that here now. We can't clean the water. There's in Lake Okeechobee, there's areas in the center of the lake that are 15 to 16 feet deep. We have a 7.5 to 8 foot sediment line in those areas where a wind event, and when I say a wind event, I'm not talking a tropical storm. I'm talking about just a regular 25 to 30 mile an hour wind can stir up that entire portion of the lake. Then once it reaches the shorelines, or once it reaches the grass lines, there's no outside grass lines anymore. There's nothing to clean the water up. And a big part of that is aquatic vegetation management. One of the biggest things that we've pushed for the last 3 or 4 or 5 years now. You see there's a group out there called AFLO, Anglers for Lake Okeechobee. That was, anybody that can get in. There's a couple of different groups out there. There's, and I'm not going to get into all the politics and all of that. I'm a member of Anglers for Lake Okeechobee. I'm not a member for other groups and other organizations, because I don't think, I think in some of these other groups and other organizations, I think politics plays a lot into their narrative. I think and I'll use one because I've said this to some of those members. We actually have some of those members on the tag group that I'm a member of. If you're captains for clean water, let's be captains for clean water everywhere, not just in your backyard. Let's be in all over the state, all over the country. If that's the case, then we don't need to worry about just the Caloosahatchee River or just the St. Lucie Canal. We need to worry about everything. We need to worry about the Everglades, the Florida Everglades. There's to see what's going on down in the Everglades right now it's about as bad as it is to me. It's about as bad as it is in Lake Okeechobee. It's being decimated for no reason. There's other ways that they could do things to make to bring back some of the grasses, to bring back the filter. Without filtration, we can't clean the water. The natural filtration, we can't clean the water before it goes to the Everglades.
Yeah, and the problem we had at Istapoga, like you were saying, because that's my home lake. they went to spraying the hydrilla. Well, then they went to the banks, and there isn't any more eelgrass in Issahoga.
There's none.
The spawn has pretty much disappeared. Everything has disappeared there, and I noticed this year was a little bit more of the eelgrass has come back in Okeechobee, where the last couple of years you couldn't even go find, even in an airboat, you couldn't find eelgrass, and to me, I've never been on Lake Okeechobee and not been fishing eelgrass anywhere. I mean, that's something that's a staple when you're fishing, Okeechobee, and hydrilla is as well, and to go like you're having the shad spawn right now on these moons, and it's one of the most popular things on Lake Okeechobee is your boat better be in the water at 5:30, sitting where you want to be.
Say bright and early.
For 2 hours, you will enjoy the most fun bass fishing you'll ever experience. Go down any grass shoreline on Okeechobee and have a day and be off the water by 9, 10 o'clock, early lunch or a late breakfast.
With 40 fish.
Get 40, 50 fish. But, I noticed that those outside grass lines, there's hardly any more. And that
the grass lines and it's kind of ironic you brought that up, because the grass lines, the shad spawn is not very good right now. This is the slowest shad spawn that I've heard of in a long time. Guys are coming in saying, you got a 20 to 30 minute window to catch 5 to 8 fish, and that's not good. That's so we're not seeing the wads of shad. We're not, the pods coming down the river. We're not seeing those. We're not seeing the shiners. In one of the meetings that I went to, I actually told one of the fish biologists, he comes in here on a regular basis. We sit and chit chat on a regular basis. He works for FWC. He's actually a fisheries biologist. And my take on FWC and the fisheries biologist and FWC in the invasive plant management or plant management period, my take on that is until they stop fighting amongst themselves, we're going to suffer. Our lakes are going to suffer. Our resources are going to suffer, because the fisheries biologists want to see the grass. The plant managers don't want to see the grass. So now we've got an issue where you guys are fighting amongst yourself, and the only thing suffering is the natural resources.
The natural resources, the economy, your small, your mom and pop shops. I mean, look, Mike, your shop is one of the biggest, but you're still a mom and pop, family owned, family run business that has to have the support of our tourism, which has gone down because. Truthfully, I mean,
don't have that. Here's a prime example for you, David. So when I moved to Lake Okeechobee, when I moved to Okeechobee 18 years ago, I asked what the population of Okeechobee was in the job that I was in. I wasn't in the fishing industry at that time. I asked what the population of Okeechobee was, and I was told it was 25,000 people during the summer. During the winter months, it was 80,000 people. I'm like, there's no way that we get 55,000 people during the winter months. And back then we got 55,000 people. There were that many people that came down to crappie fish. There were that many people that came down to bass fish. And they owned every place that you could park a camper, every place you could park a travel trailer, there was a camper or a travel trailer.
Oh yeah.
And now
how about those motorhomes with the big old ice chest on the back, taking their plays home with them? I mean, the crappie fishing,
And there's a lot of that goes on, and I'm not an advocate for that. Trust me. I love the business, don't get me wrong, but I think what they do is entirely wrong. There's no reason for you to come down here and take back 4,000 feet, 4,000.
Yeah.
That's a little overkill. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I have my opinion. I usually keep my opinion of that to myself, but I still let it out every now and then. But it gets frustrating at times because and my whole thing is if you have laws and rules and regulations, enforce the laws and rules and regulations.
Yes, sir.
Don't make things up. Just do what you're supposed to do. Same thing goes with the plant management. My biggest thing with plant management and aquatic vegetation management, I would love to see FWC have their own employees to where they could manage the resources themselves instead, and they could supervise that management. They could be wholeheartedly responsible for that management, not have it contracted out where.
And not only that,
you fly over in a helicopter, you ride by in an airboat, you can't see everything that's being done. So
yeah,
and I think that bites them sometimes. And by the time they figure out that it bites them, it's too late. It's
it's late. That's late. That's for sure. Because our spawns have been getting hit by it. But and another thing you said right there, Mike. If they would manage themselves, you know how many more jobs they could offer people to go do that.
Absolutely.
Instead of taking the easy way and putting all that chemical in our waters, they could have jobs upon jobs upon jobs upon jobs.
Yeah,
great jobs. Like, come on, man. Good jobs.
I've watched the one of the main. Well, they actually have the contract still right now is Applied Aquatics. I watched Applied Aquatics grow from 10 airboats to over 50. And that's just Applied Aquatics. That's not.
It's just one.
That's not the other companies that they bring in because they can't keep up. I think every one of us on here, every one of us right now will agree. And everyone out there listening will agree. Some spraying needs to be done.
100%.
Yep.
But that being said, I think I've got a little project right around the corner from my store that I've been filming for 2 years, just kind of as ammunition. I think some spraying needs to be done, but I also think that where that spraying needs to be done and what it was designed to do years ago, I think they've gotten away from that. It was designed to maintain waterways, to maintain navigation. It's not maintaining navigation anymore. It's annihilating.
Right.
When you drive over the pier, over at Lock 7, when you drive over the dike and you look out there, there's not a cattail. There's not a blade of eelgrass. There's not a blade of hydrilla. There's nothing but round reeds. And I can remember 18 years ago when I first came down there, put a canoe in out there, and I floated around out there and fished and waded and didn't just all through the canals and all of this for a year and never saw open water. I popped through a boat trail one day. I'm like, oh, what is all of this?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But now you literally, it makes you sick when you go over there and see it. And I hear all of these stories about, at these meetings and stuff that we go to about it doesn't affect the plants. It doesn't affect the fish. It may not kill the fish, but I can tell you this, and I'll use Miles Berghoff. Most of you guys know who Sonar is. I'll use Sonar as an example. I watched him in a 2-day BFL. I watched him come down here and practice for 2 weeks prior to that tournament. And I watched him figure out that if he stayed 300 to 400 yards in front of those sprayers, that he could catch all the fish he wanted to catch. And I asked him, Miles, why do you think that is? He says, because the spray takes out the oxygen, depletes the oxygen in the area that they're spraying. The fish don't leave, they just move.
And they move.
When the oxygen content, when the bait fish move, the bigger fish are going to follow. When the oxygen content comes back up, the bait fish come back, the big fish come back. But Miles figured out he won the tournament by 12 pounds over 2 days. Just staying 300 to 400
staying in front of the spray.
There's a
pretty
lot
much herded
of
them into him. That's crazy.
Those guys say a lot of things, but I can tell you that when they go out and they spray water lettuce, let's put it that way. They spray the water lettuce on the east side of the lake. Everybody knows that's a known spawning area. Yeah. So and one of the best shad spawn areas around. So they go out and they spray the water lettuce. The water lettuce breaks up when they run the airboats through it, and you get these little clumps about the size of a 55-gallon drum that's out there floating around. Put a topwater bait next to it. The reason that topwater bait works is because that's the only thing. The roots on those floating plants are the only things that those bait fish can hang under. The only thing that plankton can get a hold of. The only thing the grass shrimp can get in. And those bigger fish are going to follow them around. So, when you take that away, and that's what's happening when they spray the water hyacinths, when they spray the water lettuce. Right now, that's the only thing that we have to clean the lake, the root systems on those plants, because there is no submerged vegetation left to speak of.
Right.
And we got a lot back. Don't get me wrong. The last couple of years, we've gotten a lot of it to come back inside of grass lines. But the funny thing is there's none outside the grass lines.
Yeah,
the outside grass line.
Yeah, that's where the good fish, the good bites, the good spawns. I mean, that's where you had your population of your shell cracker, your shad, just the whole staging area for the females to move back into the grass lines. I mean, it just there's levels. You had your outside, then you had the actual outside grass line itself, and then you had the middle, and then you had the back, and then it back out again. You'd have the outside grass line, then they move just offshore, sit on the shell beds and the mussel beds and the eelgrass and pepper grass and hydrilla or whatever's out there. And that's not there no more. But it was funny because fish in the winter, it was like a parking lot. It was almost like Monkey Box 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Yep.
Everybody was there. 40, 50, 60 boats. Because that's where the grass was.
Just that one area, the Monkey Box and Harney Pond area 5 years ago. I think that was the only place that had any significant amount of hydrilla in the lake. It was the cleanest water on the lake and had the majority of the fish being caught right there in those two areas. The amount of fish that were caught in those two areas, when you came under the burnt bridge coming out of Harney Pond Canal, or when you went around the corner and you went into the Monkey Box and you stayed straight in on the right-hand side of the ditch, of 7 Mile Ditch, going down through, I can't imagine the amount of total weight that was caught out of there in 2 years' time. The amount of fish that were taken from there was amazing to see.
Amazing, yeah. Daryl Bracken found it, took me there. Timmy Fredericks, he had a couple of practice days. Actually talked to Daryl, told Timmy about it. He was on the outside of those shoals right there and worked his way back in there. Won that FLW, that FLW right in there, and after that, it just, good Lord, how many 30-pound stacks? I mean, all those tournaments between Rollins, Fast Break.
Yeah, Jesse Mizell made a living in there for 2 years. He in the Harney Pond area, he made a living in that area, So
Jesse did, Justin did, Kale did. I mean, those boys were on it.
So when the grass goes away, when these guys, and when the grass goes away, the fish go away. Where they go, there's another guy that I'd like to. I'll get some more information from. He's still trying to catch bait out here on Lake Okeechobee. Jack Peterson down at Jack. He had Beck store there for a little while. He's back down in his other store now. But Jack and Ryan both have tried to catch bait, and there's been other catchers out here that have tried to catch wild shiners out here on the lake. Lake Okeechobee shiners were the hardiest bait that you'd ever find anywhere in the state of Florida.
Hands down.
Short of Lake Okeechobee. And now you can't find that bait, let alone it be hardy. It's not as good a bait as what it used to be. And I think the water quality has a lot to do with that. I will say this, there's a lot of misconception about the water and things like that. We as residents of Okeechobee, our water is treated at a treatment plant right here next to Highway 441 in Lake Okeechobee. That water comes from Lake Okeechobee. I get calls every day, every week. How's the lake? How's the fish? I was teasing Rick Bright today. Rick called me and said, "Man, we went frog gigging on the lake for the first time in several years. We went frog gigging this weekend. We had some great big frogs." He said, "Normally we go down to the glades and catch them and clean them up down there." And he said, "Down in the glades, they got a muddy taste." He said, "We caught some of the biggest frogs that we'd had in a long time." He said, "We cleaned these things up and ate them really good on Saturday night." He said, "That was some of the best tasting frog legs I've ever had." I said,
I'll tell you, there were some big ones. There were some big ones up in Moonshine, end of March there. Oh yeah, there were. We slipped in Moonshine through Cochran's. There was a little boat run, And it kind of reminded me of back in the old days, the vegetation in there and that clean Okeechobee water, that black copper Okeechobee water, gorgeous up in there. And man, there were some big old frogs. And I'm like, okay, Spro Frog it is.
Rick told me.
Wonder what I should throw.
and of course, then they dropped the lake levels where you couldn't get back in there again. So it was like, it was fun while it lasted. No tournaments during that time when I was there.
Of course, why?
Rick said to me, he said, Mike, he said, that's some of the best eating frogs that we've had in ages. And I told him, I said, you know why? And he said, why is that? And I said, that's all that great, that contaminated Okeechobee water keeping the frogs. Keep them disinfected that way.
There you go, clean frogs.
And look at all the fish that are harvested, Mike. I mean, come on, dude. Look at all the fish harvested. The panfish harvested. The panfish are up shallow where they're all spraying. I don't see anybody blowing walking around there, do you?
No. If you go to any fish market in the state of Florida that sells fresh fish, freshwater fish, they'll have bluegill, they'll have shellcracker, most of them won't carry crappie, most of them are specks, catfish. They have all of it.
Yeah.
So but if you notice when you go into them, here's the one right down the street here, a mile and a half from here, Okeechobee Fish Company. When they go in, they have their bluegill and shellcracker actually have to have a tag put in their ear from FWC, Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission. Those fish, most people don't even know. When they go to a restaurant, 90% of the restaurants in the state of Florida, when they order catfish, comes from Lake Okeechobee. Comes from the surrounding lakes.
Big catfish business.
There's so much.
In Okeechobee.
And most people don't even understand that. Most people don't realize that. They're not told that. They're not informed that. So, they don't. If they knew, maybe they would question it more. We get questions all the time from the East and West Coast. How's the fish, and are the fish eat up with sores? Do we see sores on fish nowadays that we didn't see years ago? Yes, we do. Why? I don't know. I don't know if that's something. I think that I don't know that it's a direct reflection of the spraying. I don't know that it's not. The reason I say that's because you think about it in this aspect. If that fish has a lesion on it or has a sore on it, that where it got hit by another fish or it got hit by a gator or it got snapped, a fisherman missed it or something, and it cut that fish. If the lake waters were doing that to the fish, were causing that in the fish, then people with cuts that were in the water, people with cuts on their hands, people with there would be a lot more
like why don't people
so and you don't see if that happens, we don't hear a lot about it. There's some instances where we hear some things about it. I don't agree with the spray, and I don't agree with and people get me wrong, but I also when I say things about the spray projects, people take it that I am for the spray. I am not for spraying whatsoever. My grandkids will never see on Lake Okeechobee what Mike Krause has seen. No, your kids, you guys see what some of these old timers have seen. So and to listen to these guys and to hear the stories about what it was and just to know what it was 18 years ago when I came down here. And then to see it nowadays, it makes you sick. It just, so there's got to be some accountability. There's got to be some, people. I think people need to be held more accountable in all aspects of how the lake is managed.
Agreed. Like I told you, man, I've never been to Lake Okeechobee and not seen eelgrass. Never in my life.
Mike, that kind of brings me into the mindset of wanting to know more about anglers for Lake O and what the game plan is. What's the mission for all that? What are you guys trying to accomplish in what manner?
our biggest thing is and I'm not on the board of directors or anything like that. I just talking to different people that are in different positions on that. One of the biggest projects that one of our congressmen, so to speak, is pushing is a reservoir on the south end of Lake Okeechobee.
Mm-hmm.
They want to build a 10,600 acre reservoir. The 600 acres is to feed. It's actually to bring the water into and then put the water into the reservoir. The 600 acres is going to be full of grass to filter the water to put it into the reservoir. Now, the reservoir is going to be 10,000 acres above ground. Same thing that we have right here, a dike all the way around it. Now, think about even if the water is only going to be 3-4 feet deep, how much can it hold? The second thing, the second aspect to that is however many billions of gallons they say it can hold, and it can clean, and they can move it south into the Everglades and things like that. Doesn't common sense tell you why would you want to spend $2.1 billion and take away agricultural land that people are growing crops to feed the country, not just the state of Florida, not just South Florida, to help feed the country? They're taking that agricultural land away from those people by eminent domain or sale or whatever the case may be, where that's taken it's taking it off your tax rolls in two of the poorest counties in the state of Florida. Two, you're taking it away from people. You're taking jobs. You're taking food off of people's tables by taking those jobs away from those people that are doing that farming and doing that agriculture down there. And it's, everything revolves around a lot of different things. The world goes in around and around in a circle. You take it away from the people that are planting it. You take it away from the people that are growing it, the people that are harvesting, the people that are trucking, everything. So it affects everything. But we're going to spend $2.1 billion to build a hole in the ground or above ground to clean and store water to move to the Florida Everglades. When the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, let me back up. I said that wrong. When the South Florida Water Management District actually owns from S65E, our lock right here in the Kissimmee River, from S65E to the south end of Lake Kissimmee, they own anywhere from 1 to 6 miles wide on both sides of that river. Why wouldn't you use land that you already own to clean water that you're already responsible for north of Lake Okeechobee before it comes into Lake Okeechobee to be cleaned even more when it comes through Lake Okeechobee, instead of spending $2.1 billion on the south end because a congressman wants it to be done?
Because at the end of the day, Mike, you cannot build upriver, but you can build south because there's nothing down there. Well, and at the end of the day, that's where it's going to lie. You clean up the area.
Crazy logic, ain't it?
You gotta, you clean up the area. You put this lock in. You got a reservoir now, and now you've got a housing development. Then you got another housing development.
I didn't say that, Dave.
Hey, look, dude, I ain't got no filter, and I'm proud of it.
Think about this. Just think about the locks at S65 and S65E, S65A and S65E. So when water needs to be moved, what happens? They open the gates from the bottom up. Why wouldn't you put a weir and let the water come from the top over? Bring a pump in. Bring a. You could put sock nets down in the bottom of that to open it up to catch some of that stuff, some of that debris that's coming through. If you guys remember when we had all of the water 3 or 4 years ago, when we had when the Kissimmee chain was as high as it was and Okeechobee was as high as it was. If you remember when they moved all of that vegetation down to it was what was the last hurricane? 2017. My mind just went blank. But anyway, when all of that vegetation came to the lock in Kissimmee, they had to bring a shredder. They didn't bring a mechanical harvester. They brought a shredder and shredded all of that. Where does that go? Right to the bottom. When it went right to the bottom, what do they do when they got to move water? They open the gate from the bottom up. Where does that go? Here's my thought, and I may be 100%. Nobody ever tells me I'm wrong when I bring it up in these meetings. But here's something to think about. So our water comes, if you drive across 528 in Orlando, there's a sign there that says Shingle Creek, headwaters of the Florida Everglades. That's where the water originates. I will tell you that Disney has one of the most elaborate filtration systems above ground and below ground that I've ever seen. Years and years ago, I was in trucking, and we used to go in and do some of that stuff at Disney. So water comes through the Kissimmee Chain of Lakes. One of the most populated lakes is Lake Toho. One of the cleanest lakes in the state of Florida is Lake Toho.
That duck money. That duck money.
Exactly. Okay.
That duck money.
So when the water comes from Lake Toho, it comes down into Lake Cypress. Lake Cypress historically grows hydrilla faster than any lake on the Kissimmee Chain of Lakes.
Shallow.
So they go in and they nuke Lake Cypress. The bottom of Lake Cypress is nothing but a mud hole. Well, there's some places, it's kind of like Okeechobee out in the center. So there's some places out there where they missed pelletizing or however they decided to kill it, subsurface injection, whatever the case was. So the water still flows from Lake Toho, from Shingle Creek, through Toho, through Cypress, through Hatchnahaw, through down the Kissimmee River, through Lake Kissimmee. So over the course of the last few years, you've seen Lake Kissimmee decline tremendously.
Spray.
Philadelphia Point doesn't exist. The Kissimmee grasslands don't exist. Rabbit Island doesn't exist. There's a little bit coming back now, but when that question was posed, we were told that it was caterpillars, worms. Okay, I don't know. I had no proof of it. You said I'd done the same thing. I sat back and scratched my head. So then
how many damn worms there?
Yeah.
Let me tell you what it is, Mike. I was there fishing the Bartow for the first Bartow event. Okay, I went a couple months early. I went a month before, and that month before there was 5 harvesters sitting on the bank north of Grave Hammond. 5 harvesters. 5 harvesters grew grass up over the decks, never moved. I seen 2 helicopters. I seen multiple airboats burning everything up, and yet those harvesters still sat there on the bank, and they said they were using the harvesters to get their stuff. Never moved. 3 months.
Do you know why the harvester sat?
No, sir.
Here's why. The harvester sat because, and I'm just using this. I'm using the harvesters as an example of what I actually saw here on Lake Okeechobee. So on Okeechobee, they bring in a company from, I believe they were based out of West Palm Beach. They had what's called Weedoos. Because Weedoos are nothing more than a bobcat on water. They can run. They can operate in 8 inches of water. When they come out to do a project, they bring barges with them where they can load it up. Now that takes a little bit longer to do. I'm not saying that there's not a time factor involved, but here's how the process went. So since Applied Aquatics holds the contract for aquatic vegetation control through Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, all contracts for the mechanical harvesting have to go through Applied Aquatics.
There you
So
go.
Applied Aquatics. So in this particular project, they were given 13 acres to harvest. Those 13 acres were on the north end. I guess it would be the kind of the northeast end of the monkey box. When, in other words, from the spoil islands that you were talking about where Tim Frederick fished, from those spoil islands around the tip going into the monkey box. So they bring out 2 barges. They bring out the Weedoos. One barge breaks down, or actually it doesn't break down. It gets stuck because the water's so shallow. So they have to take this. One of the excuses we hear is they have to they have to get rid of whatever they harvest. Well, what they're harvesting is 99% water. Why not just put it up on the bank, let it dry out? Why not contract one of these cattle farmers especially during the summer months? These cattle farmers would love to have that stuff dumped in their fields so that their cows could eat.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So, and would probably pay you
I was
to have it.
saying, might buy it.
Probably pay the trucking to have it. And that's the excuse that we hear, is it costs so much to truck this stuff. Okay. So in this particular deal, they actually, out of the 13 acres that they were given, they actually moved 4 acres because they could work a little bit and get shut down, work a little bit and get shut down.
Mm-hmm.
Who was shutting them down? I don't know. Nobody knows.
That's sad.
Except them. Okay.
That is so sad.
So, and they padded the numbers, in my opinion, and this is strictly my opinion, but I know what they were paid was $97,000 to do that. Okay. So then when you talk to guys from Texas Aquatics, who own the harvesters that you're speaking of,
yep.
Texas Aquatics Texas Aquatics will tell you that when you see some of these numbers for the spraying actually just blows your mind. And those numbers are real-time numbers. You can see them on FWC's website. You can see them year to year in every location, how much they sprayed of this, how much this chemical was, how many gallons was sprayed, what the cost of that gallon was, what the contractor was that sprayed it on that body of water or any other. So there's a lot of different places where you can go to see some of this stuff. But when you look at what happened in the Harney Pond area at $97,000, there's no way that anyone would consider doing mechanical harvesting over spraying because of those numbers alone. When you take 7 days, you paid $97,000 in 7 days. Why? There had to be a reason. What was the reason? That's where some of the, when we voice our opinions in some of these meetings, we want to know. My biggest concern, we'll leave the money in it. It just kind of sparked a little thought for me. My biggest concern in these meetings that have yet to be answered this question: what are the long-term effects to the human body of the chemicals that you're putting into our water? Because we get our water. It doesn't matter whether it's filtered through that filtration system,
that's not
sent through that plant or not.
Well,
our water comes from Lake Okeechobee.
Some of that chemical they do use sits down in the mud, in the sediment and everything. It doesn't go in. And that's the reason why the eelgrass has disappeared everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And it cracks me up because they're replanting areas.
Yep.
I don't see none of it grow.
Think
put a flag up or something. Jeez.
Yeah.
Where they at?
Just think about water flow on Lake Okeechobee.
Yeah.
So the water comes in from 2 ways. Comes into the lake either runoff or natural rainfall, or comes down the Kissimmee River. Yeah. So the water goes out 3 places. The Miami Canal. I mean, there's other little filter or little pump stations, but the main 3 places that it goes out is the Caloosahatchee River, the St. Lucie Canal, and the Miami Canal. The 2 main ones are the Caloosahatchee and the St. Lucie. So if for guys that have been on Lake Okeechobee for years and years, we used to have a vast area from the Kissimmee River all the way down the west side of the lake was loaded with grass. Inside the grass lines, outside the grass lines. You'd go down the shoal and you were a quarter of a mile to a half a mile offshore. You were still fishing eelgrass and peppergrass patches. Everything in South Florida or on the south end of the lake. So on the east side of the lake, the hydrilla turned over through Eagle Bay and went all the way down Government Cut, went all the way past Taylor Creek, came back in, through Henry Creek, through J&S, came back in over by the rocks you didn't see anymore. Yeah, so when the water comes into Lake Okeechobee and it has to be moved, the chemical that's being used in the Kissimmee chain of lakes, all of that chemical goes to the bottom or moves through the Kissimmee chain. Now, when it has to be moved, it comes down through the Kissimmee River into Lake Okeechobee. At the same time, they're they're doing the exact same treatments on Lake Okeechobee that they're doing on the Kissimmee chain of lakes. So now Lake Okeechobee gets a double whammy of everything that's going on from the north end of Lake Kissimmee or north end of Lake Toho all the way through the south end of Lake Okeechobee.
Yep.
So when the water comes into the river and it turns and flows, the natural flow brings it down the west side because you're pulling water on the west side of the lake, the southwest end of the lake. It pulls water down the east side because you're pulling water to the east side of the lake. So all of that chemical, all of the residuals in that debris that's coming down and settling down, they say that the hydrilla seeds are just covered up. They'll come back. They're just covered up. Well, it just keeps getting deeper and deeper. The more that you keep doing, you keep putting stuff on top of it. You still can't get through it. So there's a lot of things that don't make sense to us. There's a lot of things that don't make sense to a lot of people. And I think a lot of it is, and I'm just that if anybody's watching this, it may be my last tag meeting. Who knows? Based on just what I'm saying, because I just want people to answer for. I want to know if it's being done because of job security inside that agency. Period.
Yeah.
Is that what's going on? Is that So, there's a fine line. I wouldn't want to be in some of their shoes, but to make those decisions on what they think is right or what their science tells them. But I don't care how good science is. I don't care how good your judgment is. You will never fool Mother Nature, ever.
That's a fact.
Mother Nature will take care of herself.
That's a fact. And when those hurricanes come, they do more damage because of the wind and the change of directions and all the fresh water, all the fresh runoff. Then you've got the heat.
I give them that, David. When we go to those meetings, I give them I tell them straight up, I give you the high water, I give you the wind events, I give you the hurricanes, I give you all of those factors into what the lake is today. But I know that spraying that the spray that they're using doesn't kill this plant. The spray they're using doesn't affect this plant. It comes back. It softens that plant. And the wind events that we have on this lake with those soft plants, when you can take cattails and you can take round reeds and you can pull them up by your hand and they smell
unheard of,
nastiest stuff that you smelled. And when you smell that, that's not just high water. That's not just wind event. That's rotten. So there's definitely something going on. There's definitely I would love to see the politics be set aside for 18 months, 2 years. Let the politics be set aside by all parties concerned, whether it be East Coast, West Coast, South, North, Washington, doesn't matter. Leave the politics out of it and let Mother Nature take its course for a couple of years and see what happens. The plants are only going to grow so far. If you remember, several years ago when everything was covered up with hydrilla, we used to beg for duck season. The duck hunters would come out, they blow a 2-foot wide trail with their duck boats, with their mud motors. They blow a 2-foot wide trail. In a week's time, that joker's 10 feet wide. And bass boats passing each other 70 miles an hour.
We can get back there to the spawning areas after the duck boats get in there.
So there's a lot of things that I think that they can do that. Everybody makes suggestions. That's one of the biggest things with AFLO is they're trying to bring awareness to look. I don't know. There's some out there that want to see the deep water injection wells and the ASR wells, aquifer storage and recovery wells. I'm not 100% for them. I'm not 100% against them. And the reason why is there's just, to me personally, there's not enough data out there to know what happens to that water when you take it from up here and you shove it down 3,000 feet into the aquifer or into the center of the earth, and then you bring it back up 6 months later or 10 months later or a year later. What happens to that water? What happens to the aquifer? What happens? So, and I may be it may just be me. I may not be educated on it enough to know what happens to it. Maybe they've done those tests. I don't know, but there's a lot of things that I just want them to. I want them to tell me what the logic is of spending $2.1 billion to build a hole on the south end of the lake when you own all this north of here.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I think we can all agree. A lot of this, to all of us anglers and everybody, just doesn't make sense, man. And Mike, I'd love to have you back on and dig a little bit deeper into it and
definitely
flow and everything.
Let's set something up, Mike, and man, let's get you back on and let's just pound out a good solid hour of just, let's dig a little deeper into some of the stuff, man, and if Raymond's available, any
other members, we can have up to 10 people on here, Mike, and we can all get the own ideas out and figure out. We can figure it out ourselves.
Come on, Cody's very well spoken. He does a lot for me, and he's very well spoken. He knows a lot about this stuff as well. Maybe we need to get some guys, some different guys that have different opinions that have been here longer than I have.
I'd love to.
We could totally make a 2-3 hour show of it and have guys come in and out. And I know Cody ain't feeling no problems on Okeechobee with.
Yeah, no.
I seen from this little trip last week on that damn popping frog. but Mike, I greatly appreciate your time and wisdom, bud. I can't wait to get out and see you over there. You are right where I'm going to go. I take 98, head out that way, and shoot right over, and I'll come see you here soon. Okay.
Yeah.
We appreciate it, man. Y'all come see us anytime.
Thank you. Okeechobee Headquarters. Okeechobee Headquarters. Get down there and see this guy. You guys will be at home. You guys will enjoy it, and he will put you on some fish. He'll get you the right baits. He's carrying it all, man. Get down there and see Mikey at Okeechobee, guys.
All right, Mike. Take care. You have a good night, bud.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank y'all.
Awesome.
That guy, I could talk to him forever.
Yeah, he's very knowledgeable, guys. Very knowledgeable.
So much.
Man.
Like, I just keep listening.
So much you can talk about.
He just blew my mind with so much knowledge. Like, $2.1 billion.
Yeah.
We all agree, waste of money on that, right?
Oh yeah, and it's crazy, man, because all the negative publicity that's going on, and here you go, you got a guy thriving down there, busy. I know Fast Break's busy. I know Gerard's is busy.
And the fishing's not bad, man. Justin Morgan, day in, day out.
I mean, it's
even
not.
Kathy's over there is getting busy.
Yeah, it's not. It's not bad. It really isn't, and it's it's not like what it used to be. This time of year, you're still catching fish, though. And at the end of the day, obviously summer's here, so they're going to start reporting negative crap, which is,
exactly what that is.
Mike, man. It hurts guys like Mike, and that's kind of one of the reasons why we invited him on tonight. Just kind of, hey guys, look, here's someone that lives there. Here's someone that this is his livelihood, and you guys are safe. Go visit Okeechobee. Get down there, see the boys, get after it.
Yeah, and I got a buddy that I know he said like all the fish that get caught in those fish markets are from Okeechobee. I got a buddy of mine at work goes there every 2 weeks and picks up catfish from Okeechobee knowingly, and he's fine.
Huge catfish.
He's fine.
He's fine, man.
His third arm hasn't grown yet.
No burns, no internal bleeding or nothing. He is fine, man.
Doesn't go on
No, dude. A lot of it's scare tactic. Unfortunately, there's a lot of travel that doesn't want to be done now because of a lot of people soaking in a little too much media. It's better just to get out there and experience it because it's a lot safer out there than it is inside right now.
Yeah, and go see Mike, and he'll, like you said, man, he'll tell you where to go to catch fish and have a good time, and you might catch the fish of your lifetime on Okeechobee, man. They're still in there.
Get off the couch, get off your damn TVs, get off that crap that's social media.
So
go fishing.
We've got a guest coming on Thursday that we all know well, JB from Vector. He was on our live feed today, infiltrated my domain, and we got some stuff done, but
better you than me.
Dude, if both y'all were here, nothing would have got done. It was better.
Yeah.
It was better this way.
Oh yeah.
No, we're gonna talk about some tournament fishing. I mean, we were when we were on today, he was talking about some crazy bags from Talquin and just super consistent weights. I mean, 3 fish coming in at 21 pounds, almost like top 3-4 places. Like, how do you find that many 7-pound fish consistently throughout the year? Even
Look at Dave. I know he knows where you can find them. I got a lake too where I can find them.
It's a drop shot thing, guys. You wouldn't.
I wasn't saying it. I would just bite my tongue.
But
you can't see me.
Right? No.
Oh yeah, you infiltrated us, Dave. I'm like, NextFish. I didn't post that.
Dude, no, and I was like, Joe, was that you?
See, you taught him too much, Andrew. Now he knows the systems, man.
Oh no, I got lucky and just posted something and it said I was on NextFish. So
you're getting kicked off as admin on the page.
Oh, dude, I loved it, man. It said NextFish, and I said, "Oh, this is gonna get good." I'm sitting back like,
based on the comment, we totally knew it was Dave.
That's your inner Paul Mickley right there.
Yeah.
Channeling your inner Paul. That's some sneaky shit he would do. I'm serious.
I didn't call you that, Andrew. It wasn't me.
I know you didn't do it, Joe. Who was it?
Looking for that virtual fishing lure hit me in the face. Which one of y'all hit me? No. So tune in Thursday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Joe, Dave, and I will have JB on here. We'll talk some hooks. We'll talk some fishing. It'll be a good time.
Yes, it will. All right, guys. Till next time. Peace out. Have a good night.
Yes.